In this video, I'm going to be showing you the secrets to drawing realistic skin pores. Because listen, I've been there. You look at these professionals on Instagram or on YouTube, you see the way they draw skin pores and you're like, how do they even do it? Is it humanly possible to draw skin that looks this real? Yes, it is. It is very possible. I studied their technique, watched their TikToks, their Instagram reels. Boy, I even subscribed to their Patreon just to find their secrets, and I'm going to share what I found with you. So we start by shading the base layer. Now, before you go ahead and start shading with your pencil, wait first. I'm going to actually shade with graphite powder. Now, why am I shading with graphite powder rather than just shading with the normal graphite pencil? It is because with graphite powder, the shading looks softer. Try to use your makeup brush to blend the graphite powder if you have. And if you don't, you can steal your sister's own, or better still, order from Amazon. It's really cheap. The goal when shading with the brush and the graphite powder is to get the basic tones of the image, the light and the dark areas of the image. Now, yes, the skin pores on the skin may make it harder for you to see the basic shading, but just trying to notice the very dark places and the very light places on the skin and shade those areas as you see them. Now, anything aside those dark and light places will just be mid-tones and just normal shading. And so, shading with the graphite powder is over, and you can already guess what's next. Drawing the skin pores, right? Wrong. We are going to add more shading, because listen, I know you are eager to draw the skin pores, but you need to lay the proper foundation before you start building your mansion. You need to make sure that the shading is dark enough before you start drawing your skin pores. Because trust me, the last thing you want is to draw all the intricate skin pores just to find out that the skin shading is too light. Now, this would mean that you have to shade over the skin pores that you have spent hours to create, and it's just nasty. So take your time, make the shading as dark as it needs to be, and then add your skin pores. And nothing can make your shading darker than using charcoal powder. Now, with charcoal powder, you are going to be very careful. You need to be very gentle with this, because if you haven't used charcoal powder before, this stuff is really crazy. Use it anyhow and you will completely mess up your drawing. One thing that will help you to mitigate the side effects of using charcoal powder is to use the brush size that is relevant to the area that you are drawing. Like if the area that you are shading is very large, you want to make sure that you are using a bigger brush, because when you use a bigger brush, the shading will be smoking smooth. Okay. And then when you are now shading smaller areas, you can now use a smaller brush. But when you are now shading with this smaller brush, try to shade in circular motions. That will prevent the shading from turning out to be something like this. And oh yeah, let me just mention, I decided to tape the edges of the drawing so that the shading will not spill over to the white areas of the paper. And then when we peel off the tape, we can have a very crispy and clean edge. If an area is very dark, like this area with the cheek, we just go in straight with our charcoal pencil and shade the life out of that thing. Make it very black and darker than life itself. Oh Lord. Now that our shading is complete, it is dark enough, smooth enough, and nice enough, we can now begin shading the skin pores. Yeah, I know, it's about time, right? I know we took our time getting here, and that was very necessary, because like I've mentioned, the shading stage is just as important as the skin pores stage, so we had to take our time to make sure that that was nice. Okay, and now to draw the skin pores, we are going to need these tools: any type of charcoal pencil, a cotton bud, a Tombow Mono Zero eraser, and an electric eraser. Now, normally I would say that these tools aren't compulsory and you can substitute them with any tool that you have, but that is not the case here. You really need these exact tools, and you'll see why as we continue the drawing. But for now, let's start by drawing the shadows of the skin pores. Make sure that your charcoal pencil is sharp and start to draw dark dots. This area of the cheek that we are drawing now is quite dark, so the dots that we are going to draw on it are going to be dark as well. But now this doesn't mean that you will enter crazy mode and start putting pressure on the pencil to draw the dots very dark. You'll want to draw the dots reasonably by applying only slight pressure. And yes, I keep saying draw dots, but please don't go and draw circular dots. That is dots that have sort of like a perfect circle. You want to make sure that the dots have a weird shape. For me, I found that drawing some sort of spiky dots can work well in some areas. That is dots that have this kind of V shape. I mean, yes, in some areas you can draw the normal circular dots, but regularly add dots of weird shapes to, spice up the texture. In fact, towards the top of the drawing, you see that we have long wrinkle lines. Dots aren't going to work here, so we have to draw curved vertical lines. And after we draw the dots, we need to blend them. I'm using my cotton board to blend. You might feel bad about blending away the time and hard work that you've spent to draw the skin pores, but trust me, this blending is exactly what you need to make the skin pores realistic. You want the skin pores to feel like they are a part of the skin, rather than looking like fake freckles or blackheads. So yeah, you get the point. We blend the dots, and now we can move on to the highlights. To draw the highlights of the skin pores, I'm going to use a Tombow Mono Zero eraser. This eraser is a blessing when it comes to drawing skin pores. In fact, if you have this eraser, it is like 50% of the job done. You shouldn't have any excuse for your skin pores not looking realistic if you have this tool. But what if you don't have this Tombow Mono Zero eraser? Well, sorry my friend, you are on your own. Okay, yeah, I'm kidding. You can use a kneaded eraser, roll it to form a dot, and then dab on the paper. But the kneaded eraser can easily create large dots of highlights, which we don't want. This is why I said that we needed the Tombow Mono Zero eraser. If you can, buy it. Thank me later on my Instagram. So basically, the process goes like this. We start by using our charcoal pencil to lightly draw dots, making sure not to draw them too dark. The dots also aren't really dots, they have like a V form to them. You'll also see me connecting the dots together with light lines. This adds to the realism. Then we blend the dots so that they look like they are parts of the skin. And now we add the highlights. To know where to add the highlights, try to notice a few pores on the reference photo. And here we can see that the highlights are towards the right or the bottom of the dots. After you draw the highlights, you are going to need to tone it down. Most beginners will just leave the highlights and let it shine. But you want to tone down the highlights, at least for now. Later on, you can brighten the dots that you want to be very white. And regarding brightening the dots that need to be very white, how about we do that now? For that, we are going to use this tool. And if you're wondering why it's pink, trust me, it has nothing to do with Barbie. It's just because that is the only color they had left in the store. This is an electric eraser. Once you press this button, the eraser spins. It spins so fast that it erases anything in its path. And we are going to use that to our advantage. I start by sharpening the tip of this eraser. You can use a sandpaper to do this. Use the sharp tip to tap on the area that you want to highlight. And just like that, we can create really minute details. And this will add to the realism of the drawing. As I get towards the right edge of the drawing, I try to fade my dots so that they have that blurry look to them that you can see in the reference photo. Now listen, we have learned how to draw the skin pores. But the truth is that we've only learned how to draw this type of skin pore. Skin pores comes in different shapes and sizes, and I mean that literally. Not all skin pores are created equally. To find out the secrets I learned from the professionals and how to draw the other type of skin pores, check out the video that appears on the screen now. Watch that. Yes, that. And I'll see you in the next one.